Hi folks, this is Dr. Rob Cywes, the Carb Addiction Doc, and today we're just going to have some fun. I notice a lot of the other folks on YouTube channels have lists of things. So today I'm going to give you my list of 10 dietary misconceptions. Things that everybody out there says, oh, you must do this or you mustn't do this, and it's absolute my favorite medical word. By the way, I'm not going to say my favorite medical word. For those of you that have watched my video, in the comments section on this video, tell me what you think my favorite medical word is and insert into the space. Okay, so here we go. 10 dietary misconceptions, irrespective of what diet you're on. Number 1, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Absolute medical word. The concept of breakfast, folks, was popularized by the Kellogg's brothers. And the Kellogg's brothers are the guys that invented cornflakes. Okay, we got this great thing, cornflakes taste great. When the devil are we going to give cornflakes to people? Let's create breakfast as the most important meal of the day and insert some grain foods called breakfast cereal into that breakfast space. It is an advertising gimmick for cornflakes from 100 years ago that has become taken up in folklore as breakfast being the most important meal of the day. Folks, it is absolute biological nonsense. Because here's what happens. As soon as you wake up, between cortisol and glucagon, those two hormones squeeze your liver to release massive amounts of sugar into the bloodstream. That's called breakfast. It's a little bit like if you've been sleeping at night, your car's been idling, and suddenly you put it into gear and drive off. There's a rush of energy to the engine. Well, in exactly the same way, there's a rush of sugar from your liver into your body as soon as you wake up. If you ask any diabetic, they know what the dawn effect is. So why the devil are you supplementing what your body is doing? Your body is giving you breakfast. Why the hell are you eating on top of that? What's your body going to do with that? It's just going to create disruption. If you want to have a cup of coffee or something like that to get your day going, that's fine, but it's more mind-cleansing moment. But breakfast is the least important meal of the day. And one of the best things you can do is to ride the wave of not eating as deep into the day as you can. And slowly over time, you'll be able to extend that to the point that you don't consume calories before noon, which gives you a 16 to 18 hour period of time where your body is using what it's stored and not having to redistribute what you've put in your face. Breakfast is the least important meal of the day. The second big myth, oh, you mustn't eat dinner before you go to bed. You mustn't eat late. It's so bad for you. Your metabolism, you're going to gain weight if you eat late. Absolute medical word. Absolute medical word. What do lions do after they've eaten? They sleep. They don't go run around and play games. They lie there with their paws in the air and they're fast asleep. Because all their blood is going to their gut to use that metabolism. So the first thing is, it doesn't affect your metabolic rate. It doesn't matter when you put fuel in your gas in your car. Does your car run better when you put fuel in the morning versus the evening? No, it doesn't. Same thing with your body, it just doesn't matter. And now here's a positive reason to eat later in the night. In the carbohydrate addiction model, it's my job, that's what I do. What I find in my personal life and the lives of a lot of my patients is the time between dinner and bedtime is their most vulnerable time to screw up. And when we screw up, it's snacking on crap. Or even snacking on something that may be healthy, but it's still a snack because we're using it for our mental relaxation, for emotion management before we go to bed. And the later we eat in the evening, we shorten that time period between dinner and bedtime, we're less likely to create nutritional and carbohydrate addiction havoc to our lives. We protect ourselves from ourselves if we can eat later in the night. Now, if you want to eat early, that's fine. I'm not saying it's a crime, I'm not saying it's bad, but there is absolutely no biologic, biochemical, metabolic, or emotional reason that it's bad to eat late at night. If you suffer from severe acid reflux, don't eat and go straight to bed. But the reality is a carbohydrate-free life, watch another upcoming video, is very, very good for gastroesophageal reflux. The next concept is calories and portion control. Absolute BS. The concept of calories, thermodynamic nutritional eating, came about because we started eating more carbohydrates and we disregarded our natural satiety functions, where hormones in your intestine are triggered by the food that you eat that go back to your brain that said you've had enough. Human beings are the only species that predetermine how much we're going to eat, and then we finish that food. Saturated fat provides very, very healthy feedback if you allow yourself to recognize that biochemical feedback. And yes, it takes reconditioning. But if you ever go to Europe, you'll see how little they put on the plate. That's not how little they put on the plate, folks. That's called normal. We pig out like crazy over here because more is better. Bang for buck. No. Calories and portion control becomes irrelevant when you're eating a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. Don't eat a specific amount of calories. It's irrelevant when it comes to weight loss or weight maintenance. And really what we're after is not losing weight, we're after losing and maintaining the weight that we lost. So forget about the concept of calories and portions. The fourth dietary misconception is you have to drink a lot of water. Oh, you've got to drink half your body weight in water, or 84 ounces or 6. Absolute garbage, folks. Just like with portion control, your body has a very, very tightly built-in control mechanism for drinking water, the thirst and satiety signals. Let your body do its job. If you're thirsty, drink, and as soon as your thirst is quenched, stop drinking. As long as there are no calories in what you're drinking, that system will work. It doesn't work in sugary drinks, and it doesn't work in alcohol. Very easy to leave half a glass of water on the table. Very difficult to leave half a beer, especially if you paid for it, or half a glass of Coke on the table. Think that through. But if you're drinking fluids that do not contain calories, you stop when your thirst is quenched. And human beings are the only species that way overdrink. We do not need to drink that much fluid. Your kidneys will love you if you drink less, and you don't flood your body and overhydrate yourself. In fact, Tim Noakes even wrote a book on waterlogging, where ultra-distance athletes who use a lot of carbohydrates drink tons of water. The carbohydrates quickly get used up as energy, and you're left with this excess water. And in severe circumstances, that excess water can actually cause brain swelling, seizures, and death from waterlogging. Over-drinking water is unnecessary in the face of a no-carbohydrate diet. So rethink that. We are the only species of mammals on the planet Earth that overdrinks water. The next simple but such an important concept to understand is that the consumption of carbohydrates are essential for brain function and body function. Absolutely false. But here's where I understand it's a little bit difficult, because carbohydrates are necessary for brain function, for red cell function, for body function. You have to have carbohydrates. Without carbohydrates in your blood, you will die. But they don't have to come from your mouth, folks. Your liver is excellent at producing and releasing carbohydrates in exactly the quantity that your body needs. It'll never let you down when it's happy and healthy. So therefore, we do not have to eat carbohydrates to stay alive. Carbohydrates are a non-essential nutrient. Historically, there might have been some value to them. But in this era of absolute abundance, in this era of simple sugars, in this era of mixing sugar with fat, especially the polyunsaturated fats, carbohydrates are no longer important in your diet. You don't have to eat them because your liver makes them. The sixth misconception: oh, salt is really bad. You have to be on a low salt diet. Absolute garbage. Salt and sugar are very, very equivalent in terms of bringing and retaining water in your system. The difference is this: salt remains in your blood vessels at a very level number, 140. Maybe a little bit up, 138, 140. Blood sugar is going up and down like crazy, and together with it, blood volume, because you see, every molecule of sugar is attached to a molecule of water. And on the other hand, the human body uses salt to regulate blood pressure and blood volume. The entire human system of fluid management is based around salt. the renin-angiotensin system, sweating, pooping out salt, pooping out water, peeing out water. When you pee, when you sweat, you don't sweat water, you sweat salt, and the water chases the salt. When you eat sugar, you use up that sugar or store it as fat. Now you're left with all this excess water. What the hell do you do with it? You can't pee it out. You have to use salt to do that. So it leaches into your tissues and you swell up like a toad. Salt is essential to the human condition. Salt doesn't cause high blood pressure, doesn't cause heart attacks, doesn't cause strokes. That's a myth. Salt plus sugar, really bad. But if you get rid of the sugar, which is always bad, salt becomes essential. Do not be afraid of salt. And a shout out to Redmond Real Salt that has really made this statement so obvious to us. And salt and electrolytes are critically important to take in on a regular basis in large amounts. And I strongly recommend the Redmond Real Salt. Little plug for them. The seventh misconception is that the human body, as opposed to cows and other animals, that the human body has to have fiber and grains. Not only is that completely false, but it's even, in a lot of people, toxic. Grains have a lot of gluten in them. And gluten negatively affects the intestine, activates the inflammatory system, damages the intestine. You do not have to eat grains, and you do not have to eat fiber or vegetable material for fiber. Does fiber help us to poop? Absolutely, but it is absolutely not necessary to form a normal bowel movement with fiber, because fiber is the fermentation of vegetable matter in the colon to convert sugar to fat. And that is problematic because that increases diseases like irritable bowel syndrome, colon cancer, diverticulitis. All of those are the toxicities of excessive fiber. Human beings do not need fiber and do not need grains. They are unnecessary on our diet as long as you've got enough salt, fat, and water in your diet. And water doesn't have to be excessive, it just has to be enough. So we've way over-focused on fiber and grains because we became lipophobic about 70 years ago. And we removed saturated fat from our diet. So that takes me to the eighth point. Red meat. Red meat is so bad for you. Absolutely wrong. Red meat is one of the healthiest things we can eat. And we evolved because we ate red meat. We evolved because we learned to capture large animals and eat them. That's how our brain evolved. But the point about red meat is it's not protein. It's not protein. Stop calling it protein. Red meat is fat with protein. It's the combination that is critically important. You just drink protein or you just drink olive oil or fat. Both of those have issues. But as a combination, red meat is incredibly healthy and I would say somewhat necessary to normal brain function. And it's bizarre in the USDA guidelines of 2020, they love fish, but they hate red meat. What's the difference, folks? It's protein and fat. It's protein and fat. It's protein and fat. There's no difference. Don't condemn red meat. If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to eat it. But it is a very, very healthy way to feed our brain, to prevent brain disorders. It is a healthy way to get fat and protein in as nutrients and as a source of energy. Don't condemn red meat. It is very healthy. Number 9, saturated fat. Oh my God, if you say the word, you're going to die of a heart attack and a stroke. Absolutely false. How is it possible that the human body uses saturated fat to govern satiety and has a whole bunch of mechanisms that deals with saturated fat in a healthy way for that to be unhealthy? Is God and nature trying to kill us with what we've evolved to eat over thousands of years? No. Saturated fat got demonized by mistake when we failed to demonize smoking, because smoking in the 1950s was perfectly healthy. So the fat in our arteries, the fat that we ate, was clogging our blood vessels and causing our heart attacks and strokes. Smoking wasn't important in that. Absolutely false. We condemned saturated fat from our diet and became lipophobic as a society completely by either naive or intentional mistake. And we've paid the price of obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome since the 1950s when we demonized saturated fat. The human body needs saturated fat. Ask any breastfeeding baby. That fat is highly concentrated in breast milk. And those babies are not dying of heart attacks and strokes. Saturated fat is essential to the human diet, and it's the replacement of saturated fat with industrial polyunsaturated fats that is creating an environment of cancer, an environment of autoimmune disease, an environment of inflammation. Those are all new modern diseases. You go back 100 years, those diseases were very, very rare because people didn't eat polyunsaturated fats. We didn't use oils that are meant for lubrication of cars' engines. Aha, this must be good for us to eat. No, folks. And nature does not combine carbohydrates with polyunsaturated fats. That is a false premise, and it's become the prevalent source of nutrition. It is false that saturated fat is bad for us. Absolutely false. In fact, it is necessary to protect the protein in meat. Number 10. The world loves to tell us we're deficient in all these different things, so we have to use supplements and cleansers and boosters and help. We wouldn't exist as a species if we needed those things, folks. The colon is our shitter. That's its job. It's designed to get poop out of it. You don't have to cleanse your colon. Come on, man. Those are wallet biopsies. That's snake oil that someone's trying to sell you. And oh, you got to take this vitamin and this supplement and your ashwagandha. Absolute garbage. Eat real food. You don't need supplementation for the most part. There are a few elements where you may need some supplementation. But as long as you're getting a decent spectrum of food in, your food is your supplement. Oh, but I feel so much better if I... Placebo effect, folks. Don't be sold wallet biopsies. People are making money off your naiveness. We've never needed them before. Why do we need them now? We don't. Superhuman is not a condition. Normal human is what we're striving for. And a normal human survives best on a normal human diet. If you're spending money on a bunch of gimmicky crap that goes in pill form, you're conning yourself. Number 11. This is our little bonus round. Because I can understand how people are mistaken about this. And the misconception here is that you get so much benefit from fruit and berries and keto lookalikes. You may. Sure, fruit, berries have a lot of nutritional value. And if you're an otherwise normal person, I doubt whether such a person exists in America anymore, but if you're a healthy, normal person, eat your berries, eat your fruit. But fruit is no longer something that nature and God provided. The apple that we eat didn't come from the Garden of Eden. That was a little sour thing this big. Now it's this big, and they didn't add more nutrients to it. It's pure sugar. There's double the amount of sugar in the average apple to the average donut. And they're both fructose, by the way, same sugar. Oh, but one's garbage. So if you have diabetes, if you have obesity, if you have metabolic syndrome, if you have insulin resistance, that sugar in fruit, in berries, yes, berries are just baby fruits. Think about this, folks. If you're an alcoholic because you drink a 750 ml bottle of Tito's every day, and you're an alcoholic and you quit drinking that, that's fruit. But now you get on an airplane, they give you a little bottle of Tito's like this, an ounce. That's okay? Garbage. My favorite medical word there. Berries are baby fruits. They don't have the value and they do the same harm as fruit. Stay away from them. That is the downfall very often of a ketogenic diet where people are doing drive-bys. And the same thing with lookalikes. Oh, I made some arbitrary almond flour crust, or I made pizza from this, or I made brownies from, or fat bombs. You're eating it for this, folks. You're not eating it for this. Carbohydrate lookalikes do not belong in the standard human diet. That's a misconception. It is a slippery slope to recidivism, to relapse. And those are 11 common dietary misconceptions. Hope this helps. Be healthy, be safe. Be happy and be content with who you are, continuously striving and challenging yourself to do a little bit better each day, not that you did something bad yesterday.